Alright folks, welcome back everyone. 皆さんおかえりなさい。今日は116日目です。It is day 300, 116. Welcome back. Hello there, Danny. Alright, let's get into our lessons. Yesterday we started our lessons after midnight, that's why this is filled. Let's do our 3. Alright. I do not know what that character is. That's interesting. Oh, that's the character for Hotondo. I'm doing pretty well, Danny. How are you? How have you been lately? Oh, okay. So Hotondo has a character for Hoton. Glad to hear it. Alright. Hardly any you. That's when it's negative. And almost all. Wait. Yeah, almost all or most. Generally written kana, though can also be seen. Alright. The adverb hotondo is used in many situations in Japanese and often translate as most or hardly any, depending on like negative or positive, almost all, and similar expressions. The nuance will always depend on the rest of the sentence. The most accurate translation for the word hotondo itself is simply almost, where the thing that is describing is almost considered to be a full group rather than a single thing. Or maybe it's just most the whole time. As with many other adverbs that highlight an amount in Japanese, hotondo can modify a whole phrase or can be used before no to further specify a single noun. Okay.
宿題はほとんど終わっているよ。
It's been a while, the grind has been real. Okay, what have you been grinding lately? Hey.
弁当はほとんど食べてないけど、おやつは全部食べた。
おやつ。ああ、おやつは。
ほとんどの人は私の名前を読めません。ほとんどの大学生は親と住んでいます。
Finishing up the script for the comic. Very nice. Going to have people check the grammar and soon you'll start on the backgrounds part. So you're doing the comic beforehand? Has it swapped from comic to... Is your comic part of your roadmap to your eventual animation? Oh, comic on the side. I see. And pilot as well. In negative sentences, okay, it does. Positive. Hotondo translates as hardly any. This is mainly due to the full group that hotondo is describing being highlighted as almost not exist.
今年は屋台がほとんどないね。今年は屋台がほとんどないね。
屋台。
週末に出かけることはほとんどないです。
All right. Hotondo is pretty good. Sonna, I guess they're gonna combine all of them, right? Yeah, they combine all of them. So sonna, konna, anna, and donna. Yep. And one of the most common ways to convey that something is like or something else is in casual conversation is through the use of konna, sonna, konna, anna, and donna. When asking a question, these are not officially words themselves, but are the abbreviations that come from sono yona, ono yona, ano yona, and ono yona. Oh, that explains some things actually. Okay. Why they are so similar to the yona phrases and possibly even soul. To use this casual expression, simply say it directly before the noun that you're describing or inquiring about.
そんな言い方してはいけません。
Okay. It's a good way to gain more experience for storytelling. It's also another good way to get an audience. It's certainly going to get you an audience. The experience with storytelling will certainly be there if you do storytelling. You have physical copies of it. Nice, nice.
「こんな高いものはもらえないよ。あんな大人にはなりたくない。
You know that I want a signed copy? Perhaps, perhaps. We already made the agreement, you know? When you succeed, I would accept it with all the, all the privileges. But until then, keep on working. Keep on working. It'll be my pleasure to accept something. Only when you succeed. Until then, obviously, keep working at it. Hopefully your health is good. Since we've known each other, you've already been like out of the weather twice already. So hopefully warm weather, the summer treats you well. The incoming summer. Because these abbreviations originally come from a longer, more formal variation, that form may also be used in situations they like to sound a bit more polite. Okay. We can use all. Alright.
そのような商品はないです。
商品 product.
このような場合にはどうすればいいですか？
どうすればいいですか? Okay, that's volition. Combined with asking if it's alright.
あのような運転をしないでください。
Okay.
どのような商品をお探しですか？
おさが Okay. And then yeah, so yep, that's what I was thinking. It complements the soul or all the other osoado stuff using off of soul. You. Often similar meaning. This tends so you tends to be more formal or polite. In contrast, depending on context, sono can be used with a negative or dismissive tone, which is not true of so you. Okay. I'm glad to hear your health is good. There has been a new cartoon recently that was from Amazon. What was it? I don't know if you find time to watch other things, but I kind of remember reading a review on it. What was it? Kevin? Oh yeah, Kevin. See anything on Kevin? It's an interesting looking show. Using anthropomorphic characters. Each, okay. There's a grammar point on each, huh? One of the slightly more formal ways to say that something is happening each or every, okay, in Japanese, is by using the prefix kaku, which there is no strict rules for when this prefix can be, while there are no strict rules for when this prefix can be used, is almost always seen before words of Chinese origin. Kanji compounds or katakana words. Interesting.
このエレベーターは各階で止まります。このホテルは各部屋に洗濯機がついている。
ついている。Interesting. Not too clear about this part.
ここは正月になると日本各地からの観光客でいっぱいになる。
Yeah, cool. Alright. Although this kanji is used to mark each, it is very rarely used to mark units of time. Okay. The most common natural usage of kaku is for identifying things that are part of a sequence. For example, each and every step, page, floor, house. Okay. In fact, this kanji is used in another word that's supposed to be kaku, which also means each, but it's primarily used for identifying people. No, it's not. Oh no, right. That's right. Oh no. Bento wa onono de yoi shite kite kudasai. Dekite. Oh, kite or come. Okay. Coming. Oh, I was expecting a related topic, previous related topic, like using my or something. Alright, so okay.
各ファイルを各自アップロードする必要がある。
die upload. Interesting. Oh, interesting. I feel like that's another grammar point.
どんな車がいい？
みんなはほとんど帰りました。
Alright. Off to our vocabulary. Nami. That one's pretty strong. Pretty strong, right? Yeah. Itsu? It's a secret. Right, Himitsu. Himitsu is... It's okay, Himitsu. Ryoho. It's okay. Ryoho is fine. No. Tsu. Oh, tsugo is not good. Tsugo... Not good. Oh no, it's conditioned and all that stuff again. Slowly descending into madness. How did I get the tsu? Go is in onyomi read for that, but the lesser one. Tsu. Where? Oh, one might reminder. This is like one's convenience, right? That's the one they decide to use. Yeah. So it is supposed to be a SRE, right? Yeah. Because that's to. It's okay. The mnemonic was like skull wherever you please in the city. Adobais. I don't know about that. Adobais. No. Adobais. Adobais. Oh, 思い出す。思い出。That's a little bit weak. 思い出。Oh, just Edo. There's nothing more to that, just Edo. Oh, this one's unique too. Dolka. メッセージ。メッセージ。Comment. Comment is kinda unique. 適当。Oof. 適当。That definition is rough. I'm guessing it's suitable and correct, so oh, um, sawaru. One's pretty good. Okay. What the mono sugoi? Mono sugoi. That's different, but self-explanatory. This is new, but also okay. Right, Hado. That makes sense. Yokin. Yo. Sakan is new. That is new. I have to write. Sakan, Sakan. Before. Okay. I think this might get mixed 50-50 with Ning. I think that. I don't think I came across Sakam period. We don't have a Sakam. I don't have this read, period. So what do we got? This is there. Okay, let's think about this. We have the drunkard slide. Oh no, wait. I think we have become. So become late. We use prosperous. Oh, how do you do? Just gonna have to be lumped together, right? Okay. Bengoshi. Bengoshi. Honor. Not honor. What is it? Speed. Defend. Defend. Oh, that's right. It is defend. Okay. What in the world? Soft. 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 Alright. Sure. What in goodness gracious? That's ice. Aikawarazu. Alright. That's gonna need some work. Yeah. I remember this, but man, pretty rough. Is that the only no. Oh, yeah, Kawarazu is related to to this one's tough. Okay. Goal. Mutual. N change do Yeah, I don't know about this one. That one is pretty wild. Success hit. Success and hit. Seiko. Seiko is good. Alright. So today's group is not too bad. Moving ridge. Or a swell on the surface of a body of water. Okay. Ups and downs is pretty good. Or waves, like vicissitude. Highs and lows, crests and troughs. Waves. Alright. Information or knowledge that is kept hidden from others. Okay. One's okay. Yeah. Refers to considering or involving both options or perspective. Okay. That one's pretty good. The conditions or circumstances that make something convenient or possible. That's hard to remember. Okay. Yeah. I think we have to write something for this. Okay. Think about this. Toll City 2. Think of I first. But it should be goal. Should be goal. Goal. Suit. Full suit. Circumstance. Okay. Something verbal that is given to someone in order to help them make good decisions. I'm gonna have a devastating time figuring out probably the buy part. Oh no, yeah. A recollection of past experiences and events. Okay. A historical period in Japan from 1603 to 1868, known for its peace and stability. Also the formal name of Tokyo. Yeah. A long, narrow passageway typically found in buildings. And special. A non-Japanese word for written or spoken communications conveying information. a staple food grain of many cultures, particularly in Asia. An adjective indicating that something is suitable or fitting for a particular situation. Not quite same. Okay. A verb indicating to come into physical contact with something using the hands or other body parts. An adjective used to describe something as extraordinary or impressive. A thin rectangular paper or plastic object that often contains some form of information on it. The amount of money charged for a service, product, or usage. Okay. An adjective describing something that is active, lively, or in high demand. Okay. 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 A legal professional who provides legal advice and representation. It a non Japanese adjective that describes something that is gentle, mild, or soft in nature. It can also refer to software program, right? An adverb indicating that something remains the same or continues as before, often used to state that something is as expected. Okay. This one's gonna be tough. The achievement of a desired goal or outcome. Okay. Alrighty.
車がものすごいスピードで走っています。
Okay.
彼女は歌手として成功しました。
カードで支払いをする。
ここは漁業が盛んな町だ。
私の将来の夢は弁護士になることです。
先生、廊下を走らないでください。
彼女は相変わらず今日も遅刻した。
Oops.
この建物は江戸の時代からあるそうだ。
最近は
最近はガソリンの料金がとても高いです。
I immediately thought Nefuda, I suppose. And actually, I'm kind of curious. Or let's try another. That means value. Okay. They just completely marked Nefuda. Interesting.
彼らは両方とも私の大親友だ。
Half-hearted? Like, not that. So it can be negative too. So it's both positive and negative. It'll be flipped if it's negative. Okay. One of those adjectives. Oh. No. I only remember two. Alright. Another thing for suitable. Oh.
そんな適当なことをアドバイスしないで。
波が激しいときは海に入らないようにしてください。
父親にスマホでメッセージを送る。
これはゲームのソフトだ。
アドバイスをする。
That's not bendy. Something else.
都合の良い日を教えてください。
Interesting. That might create a double meaning.
彼女に秘密を話したことは間違いだった。
この思い出はずっと忘れたくない。
米を一粒も残さずに食べる。
その壺に触らないでね。
Okay. What do we have? 68 grammar points? We can either do that or move on to hero and try to do some characters. guess let's do some of the here. Probably phrase to noun. Now seem. No. I don't know what this is referring to. Yeah, alright, now line phrases. I don't know. This is it like, oh, probably like, oh youこと。
彼は日本に行っていないということですか？
Yeah.
彼は日本に行っていないということですか？
Okay.
「隣の関君はうるさすぎるわよ。彼が音楽を聴くときいつも私のアパートに聞こえるわ。」
I'm guessing wa is a exclamatory of some sort. Not entirely sure. Um,
海に行ってすぐ泳ぎ始めた。
Oh, probably. So that's. Yep. Then it would. Polite. 直す right? So 直しませんか Light and negative. Oh, I misspelled. I wrote kon, not kan. And that's Ichidan.
もう一度考え直しませんか？
各何を things like 数学などを勉強します。
数学などを勉強します。
曜日を出る thing like so I don't know if I need a tense I'll pass
100メートルを10秒で走れるようになった。
I don't know if this needs anything in front of. I don't think so. I think so. A special rule. Hi. Title.
今日は早く帰ろう。
子供が
子供が静かに遊んでいる。
テレビをhaving食べ終わって
テレビを見るのは食べ終わってから。
お寿司を食べて
お寿司を食べている男の人は私の兄です。
Oops. Oh, no. I'm writing the wrong thing. What am I? Wait. Is this not what I think it is? Oh.
リュウジの部屋は
I
綺麗
kept
だ。
typing the wrong thing. It's fine. Only. 面白いこと、そういうことを、I think this was yesterday's thing. I think we need to add suddenly, like suddenly remembering. So oh no, is it 重い? Probably 重い. Tense? Oh, past.
面白いことを今思い出した。
As many, yeah. I feel like this is Hotondo as well. Why is this not As many as 10. Die? More?
10回もやったけどできなかった。
That's a bit sketch.
証人が警察官に言う。泥棒は30代半ばだったと思います。
Oh, I forgot the... Dang it. I forgot
私はアルバ
now.
イトの後で疲れている。
If
お砂糖を入れすぎたから甘い味がする。
What? Oh, negative pass.
このゲームは面白くなかったです。
Keep forgetting to look at past tense. Like I see past and I'm like, ah, I'm just gonna ignore it. Okunaru. Satisfying outcome. That person is already added.
これからもどんどん強くなるといいね。
なるべくたくさんの人気な場所へ行きたい。
東京にが
東京に行った時にスカイツリーを見た。
の、うんこの、ロイは、
犬のうんこの匂いは甘くない。
I don't know what is the deal with that sentence. 私、竹田さんで、田さんの宣伝。
私は武田さんのジュースを飲まなかった。 私は武田さんのジュースを飲まなかったです。私は武田さんのジュースを飲みませんでした。
お金持ちの人。Nope. That's right. So something like similar. Place. Soul good, no? There's so many of them. What? One catchwork that confidently highlights the way something looks. Right. So idiomatic. Okay, so we have a noun with full, right? So let's do like I not
お金持ちの人みたいな生活をしたい。
comparing the two. ということBa at the end. A phrase that expresses uncertainty, but it also frequently shortened. Like Nada? No. If case. Probably the もしれない。
そういうことを言わない方がいいかもしれない。
Oh, you guess your difficult puzzle you were telling me about was the end of the latest update? Ah, I see. Back to ruminating for a month. Yep. Back to ruminating for a month or two. They did mention they're expecting a delay on the next update. And also, hello, Beth.
日本語は面白いが難しいです。
まず本を読んで映画を見に行きましょう。
明日までにまた連絡をください。
連絡をください。
私 私は子供たちに1週間に500円のお小遣いをあげる。
My work there. Oh, because it would have to be before the. That's fair.
あまり牛乳がないのにスーパーに行った時買わなかったの？
ダメ。Oh, ダメ。not ダメ。ダメ。ダメ。Think. Light, subjective. 思いますよ。思います。思いますよ。Oh, I forgot the. Dang it. ダメ。ダメ is not adjective.
ダメだと思いますよ。
Math and numbers are scary? Aren't they all? No language barrier required. Although, it is kind of interesting how, despite math being one of the most constant concepts that are outside the boundaries of linguistics, like the particular language, math serves to have different subjective approaches when it comes to putting it back into like a language. Despite it all.
バスで行くかタクシーで行くか分かりますか？
だってて死ぬよ。Coldness. So we're converting an adjective to a noun. What do I have for that? It's samusa.
この寒さだけで死ぬよ。
いいよ。あの店に食べ in order? 食べにあ、食べに
あの店に食べに行った。
食べに行った。仕事をやめ書いてやめ Let me pull up. やめなかった。
仕事を辞めなかった。
やめなかった。
仕事を辞めなかったです。仕事を辞めませんでした。
Can we just learn colors next time? Ooh, that's kind of tough. That's kind of tough too. Because Bagotabi will have to make a choice in the 2 or 3 different ways to express a color. Like pink 色が桃色、緑色がgreen 色。Like you're gonna have to learn both, and then also they'll probably give you a color, but there will be multiple ways to describe the colors because the colors are subjective. So like something that's red and black can be both red and black at the same time, and something that's blue can be blue and green at the same time. Like blue and green are the same color, and then orange and red are the same color. Or you can use it as the color of the most common thing that is that color, or use the katakana for the adopted loan word but then to say it in a sentence, some of the colors need particles, some of the colors don't need particles. And then when they're acted as adjectives or adverbs, or they are conjugated, they take on different particles depending on the type of color that you have chosen. You mean you learned the basic ones from your first year? You know, lessons planning is subjective, but it seems something pretty basic. Very complicated in a sentence. So wakotabi is gonna have to put color in a sentence, and those sentences require either a no or not, and then they can either be conjugated because they're na, or a na adjective or an e adjective. Mine, I have learned them just as words without grammar. Yeah. So the thing that makes numbers a little bit more difficult as well is probably because it's in the context of a sentence. Also, there are, you know, there are 3 times more colors than probably numbers. That might be a new lesson for you. Yeah. That's I remember, but you can, like numbers, you can stick to a very specific way to express numbers in a sentence, as opposed to having to learn all of them, I suppose. Like vocabulary alone, like in Bunpro, vocabulary alone, every color seems to have at least 2 or 3 colors associated with it. Didn't go over the grammar point on color. I'm not sure if they're going to go over the grammar color. However, since we're in wakotabi, you have to do it in a sentence. You have to know which color is a non-adjective and which color is an e-adjective, which color is a standard noun and a non-standard noun. Oh, and then whether you add iro or not when you're stating the color. And then, or if you drop the e to make it a noun or an adjective. So all the colors can be nouns or adjectives in a sentence. So when you say something is white, you need to use white, the noun version, in some cases, and then you need to use the adjective version, like shiroi versus shiro. And then kuroi versus kuro. That's probably what wakotabi is probably gonna have to teach at some point. Which, the only reason I noticed that is because what Bunpro does is it's gonna translate like, oh, this towel is white. And then I'm gonna type, it's gonna be 50-50 until I figure out what the grammar point is. So right now I'm just typically asking, okay, I'm gonna type shiroi, and it's gonna like shake and yell at you and say, let's try the noun version of this. So it would be shiro. So that's kind of interesting. And I don't know how wakotabi is gonna pick for solutions. You know what I mean? In Bunpro and Wanikani, they just simply shake and say, oh, give it another shot. Maybe they're waiting for us to have enough grammar to teach them in a sentence. I think that's what they're trying to do, wakotabi. Because immediately you could have just went and say, oh yeah, let's go teach colors, because colors would be fantastic, right? It would be a really interesting gimmick. I think I can kind of see where they're going. They're a little bit better now that my grammar is like past a certain point again. And I don't think it will be that difficult later down the road, which I think that's a pretty nice thing. Largely because wakotabi corrects wrong and right as you go, as opposed to telling you, oh, you're close, but try again. That's what Bunpro does. Like, and Wanikani sometimes does it, but Bunpro, when it comes to grammar, it's like, oh, have you considered, let's try a different conjugation form, or consider the tense. Your tense is not correct. And that's kind of what I really like about Bunpro. obviously when you have a teacher, if you have a teacher or you're interacting with someone, it feels a little bit more like that. It would be awesome if Wakotabi goes back and do something like that. It's like, yeah, you're on the right track, but how about consider something else? I really do believe in things like this, like the hint system, nuances, and if the hint system gets you to eventually read the hints in Japanese or in the quote-unquote the target language, right? That is a bonus. So obviously at the moment I still have trouble reading these parts, but not too bad anymore. So in a way I could just have this displayed the whole time as an incentive to read the Japanese, which is neat. I think lots of edutainment games, it's very tough to figure out how a hint system is gonna mature if they were to implement a hint system in some way. I know you study different programs. Have you ever been curious about the Japanese from Zero series? That's where you started. Japanese from Zero series. Oh, like the books? Unfortunately, I can't really do anything with books. I can definitely read them on my free time and tell you what I think. It wouldn't take too long to read through nowadays to catch up with stuff. I can imagine I think maybe in the future I could do like book reviews without showing the book, obviously, because that would get me into very, very hot trouble. But I do imagine in the future I can do like quick reviews, as in someone would suggest something and maybe I could do like a 30-minute bit reviewing stuff. He also has a YouTube series that covers his lessons. Oh, okay. Book, not a game, but they have some online stuff. Yeah. There's also the Take Him's Guide, right? Take Him's Guide is fully PDF oriented in a format of a book kind of thing. I wouldn't be able to show, like, I obviously wouldn't be doing it like I'm doing with Bunpro and stuff, largely because of copyright and restreaming and claim stuff. However, in the future, I think I can do that. Like, it would be interesting to collect ideas from other people. Like, hey guys, you know, my Japanese learning, like, experience thing is past, but I wouldn't mind. Does anyone have, like, hey, I'm taking suggestions. What should be a book series that you want me to check out or something? And then I can do it really quickly in the evenings and then do like my usual thing about doing the summaries and then the perspective and whatnot. That could be a future thing to do for sure. I do like the idea of doing a book club or encouraging people to read again. That is part of the vision. Nowadays, the most organic way to get to encouraging people to read is to do something that involves a video game or some type of online content that has companion, like what this guy is doing, companion reading material. So then when I am doing the fair share, like online thing, like fair use online thing, also encourage a book club or something. Also thought you check colors are lesson 4 in his first book. Whoa, that's really early. Probably because they're gonna stick with the classic colors, not the textbook colors, as opposed to the colloquial color. It'll be interesting to see what they So do you did you buy the series? How are you consuming the Japanese from Zero series?
西からの風
I think in a year, if another year down the road, I feel comfortable enough to talk about most things that are for sure evaluate anything from N5 to N4. At least like the first 2.5 years of someone's Japanese journey. And I mean, how high that will go, I have no goals to try to be a master or a fluent in something. My entire goal of my instructional material, so like if I'm not saying I'm going to, but there's a high chance if I'm going to be writing instructional material in a lot of ways, and then I would have a long list of references. Most of it is to get people started. Getting started stuff. Because for me, that's the most important step. How to get started. I think that's what, without like raining on other people's parade as little as possible, I think this is the worst part about going on the internet. Like, as much as I like the internet for their information and stuff, you have to have gotten started already in order for most things on the internet to be successful. And what I mean by that is, so many of the things on the internet are really awesome. However, nearly all of them assume you have foundational skills in learning. So I can definitely see myself stopping around N3 and spend most of my time enriching myself on my free time to get better at Japanese per se, like Japanese go up. However, the stuff that I want to share with people, the stuff that I will spend most of my time investing, is how to get people the foundational skills on whatever content they're starting. So like, it's content independent skills. It's not about whether you're learning Japanese or math or physics or chemistry. Is learning after school. That's the theme of hopefully my midlife crises project. The midlife crisis is, how do you learn after school? Like outside of school, like not even for kids, but more like what happens after school? What happens after you leave formal education? How do you learn and extract all the benefits from the internet? Like there's really wonderful creators who provide so much wonderful information, but how to use that information, no one really shares that anymore because it doesn't sell well. Like, what I mean is, this type of content is not great right now for viewership, but I want to make this content. I want to make, how do you learn after you leave school? Like when school's gone and you're like 30 and you haven't learned anything in a long while, or you want to learn something, like learn how to draw one day or pick up a new hobby, how do you use the internet to do that? It's not, it sounds very simple. Oh, you just follow the internet's instructions, just read someone who knows what they're talking about. That's not really the case, in my opinion. I think there is a greater than 50% failure rate. And this failure rate comes from the false sense of security that knowing is enough to create foundational skills. That's not. I think more than 50% of people grind their way on the internet and fail to develop foundational skills for the hobby or the skill or the moving trajectory that they want, largely because they probably don't need to for a really long time. I didn't stop. I didn't stop having to learn more skills. I continue to learn more skills. That's not everyone has that luxury or privilege, so it can be tough to get back into the groove. That's pretty much what I would hope to do. And I could use my language learning experience now to kind of gather some thoughts about that. You only have 2 books, then you kind of diverge into learning from 2 different sources, kind of like I do, yeah. And it is very simple grammar, like, what color is your car? My car is purple. Yeah, okay. A banana is yellow. Fair enough. Yeah. That's understandable, given that it's like lesson 4 in this book series. What is Lego? Just Lego? Yeah, Lego を欲しがっているから。Think. Think will buy, yeah. Yeah. Maybe like, oops. 買ってあげると思う。Heck. So, what type of think are we thinking about? Oh, is it like garu? Are we doing garu? Or is it probably not aiming for volitional? I think I will buy. So it's probably garu. Yeah. I think you just throw garu onto it. Huh? No. Oh, wait. That's a verb. So like oh, but that one. Huh. That's want to. That's the third person. The simple level is all you're thinking. Yeah. I think for Wakotabi, they're aiming for transition. So you're not supposed to simplify things. You're supposed to integrate it into its existing level. So they're gonna do something more complicated with color. Because your grammar is developing, the order matters. It's as opposed to constantly keeping it simple. I think Wakotabi is gonna draw a lot of criticism if it doesn't go up in complexity as it's going. So like you were learning numbers in Wakotabi at a higher competence. You weren't learning numbers at a lower competence because it came later in your journey. The idea is all the existing grammar points and construction is going to exist whenever new vocabulary is introduced. Since vocabulary is segregated away from the complexity of the sentence. So they already introduce many tenses and all of those things. So all of those things would have to be utilized or written in order to introduce the colors in Wakotabi. And this guy's grammar, well, it's in the beginning, so they're not leveraging any advanced grammar. I will say that it is a complaint to Tractor having of his series that he makes things seem too easy. Yeah, I can see that. So here's my thing about what I would say is, it's not that it's always been this case, but I think currently the market, like the people online, the market, oftentimes when you learn foundations, that foundation has to keep going up progressively with time. Time and progress goes in one direction. Whenever like you're trying to introduce new like compartmentalized content, and this for language, it would be vocabulary. If foundations go back down, right? If foundations go back down as vocabulary goes up, this is a lose-lose. So oftentimes, like video games and stuff, they kinda accidentally do this. A point would be something like a puzzle game. Sometimes not the puzzle games that don't really shine very well are the ones where they would introduce a rule, and then the next level they would introduce rule number 2, but they would forget rule number 1, and then they repeat this. And this feels like no progress. And this is one of like the novice. This is the novice game design. Like this would be maybe potentially someone's first game, where instead of having the previous rule interact with the existing rule, it was very difficult. The easiest way to program something is to have them compartmentalize. So you compartmentalize the mechanics. And oftentimes these games, they feel static. Like you're simply washing yourself of the previous thing and then moving to the next thing, then washing yourself of that, which is kind of how some high school kids learn things most of the time. Without like understanding that, for example, like if you learned arithmetic, right? Then arithmetic leads to algebra-esque things. And algebra leads to maybe geometry. And then geometry leads to trig. Trig leads to calculus. So this stuff, without the foundations and knowing the interactions between these things, it can be a struggle. So despite having structured things that keep telling you that one leads to the other, kids that fall behind later down the road is that they stop practicing their fundamentals, because depending on the course, your fundamentals can fade without you connecting the dots. You can start to compartmentalize so strongly that you no longer remember a lot of your fundamentals, which does happen. It happens to me all the time when it comes to math. because I don't use math very often. Happens to all of us, really, to some degree. And when it comes to design, I like that the Wakotabi team is taking that into account. So, like for example, past calculus, right? Past calculus, I do high data or big data. Big data requires modeling that deals with understanding of calculus. So the goal, I hope, that the content that people are consuming, whether you start with one content and follow it through, or you start with content and then you get to a certain point and then you go into a different content and continue through. This type of thing, this bridge right here, requires that someone understands how to connect them. And that's kind of a problem right now, at least in my opinion, because this is a required. This is a required skill. That's what I have seen in language learning, where someone would do like, oh, I'm going to sentence mine using, I don't know, an app. And then I'm going to use Wanikani for vocabulary and character studies. And then I'm going to read some books, read some manga, right? However, these things are kept separate from each other. There is no connection between them. So when there is no connection between them, it takes 3 times. It can feel like it's 3 times over, like 3 times the volume. If you can understand over time the connection between these, which is connected by foundational skills. One of them is association. How you find like association in like meaning or construction. Then whenever you're doing this, it has a benefit to the other 3. And then when you're doing this, it has a benefit to the other 2. And so on and so forth. Then it no longer feels like it's 3x. It almost feels like it's 1x. Because all of these tasks are put together. They are synthesized together. And I think that's Wakotabi. The team, in my opinion, is largely trying to construct the game like that. You do not reset on foundations. So you have to keep up with everything else, and they'll throw in colors. So when you throw in colors, every single previously existing rule that you should know or grammar that you should know should be able to adjust to the influx of color. And that is kind of like building on foundations. You're constantly building up, which that leads to that natural feeling of progression. You know, like we don't have to do an educational game. It could be like a boss, right? A boss represents a cumulative aspect with a theme. So the theme could be colors, and they could emphasize it, but all your cumulative skills are tested while the theme is around colors, which in terms of bosses, many games do that, where a boss would have like the mechanics 1 through 10 representing a area. And then in order to make the next area more challenging, they may take the core of this, so they will streamline the core of all the skills in the first area, area 1, and they would have a streamlined version of 1 through 10, and then add more mechanics. So 11 through like 20, depending on what they have. And they will continue to build on that as they streamline, because the natural progress of humans is to streamline what they have learned, but not discard it. If you discard it, it's going to feel like you are treading in place. You're just throwing away an old set of rules for a new set of rules. And I think oftentimes puzzle games is a great example of how that can fail. Like very casual puzzle games, what they would do is they would do area 1 and they would test you with some rule sets. And since it's too complicated, like for the developer, sometimes the developer can bite the bullet and say, okay, we can't, it gets too complicated with too many rules. So then area 2 was specifically only test a new set of rules. And area 1, and this has to be sufficiently long enough. Like the nice thing about rules is that you can still have rule 1 interact with rule 2, interact with rule 3, right, around a theme. So there are successful games where once the rules get too many, they would reset to a new one. And then there's like a last area called like the master area. And what happens is they would give you a chance to attack all the different rules in random orders in clusters. That's another way to get around the thing. It's kind of like the thing you just said about algebra, right? If math, for example, math, PE, and language have their own sets of rules, right? Which they do. Then you can have a master class, quote unquote, a master class, where it would juggle these 3 at random. And so, yes, there is a point when there are too many rules and they kind of like collide with each other and become inefficient and whatnot. So you still can compartmentalize like this. I'm curious when Wakotabi is going to decide how they're going to split the stuff up. Because at some point, if the bosses, for example, represent Wakotabi's endgame, they do have to still make these decisions where like, okay, so I think we have too much volume now. How are we going to streamline a lot of the foundations so that it doesn't bog it down? Textbooks sometimes can end up being that way, where since you're reading a text, it can go over all the nitty-gritty over and over and over again. That means your volume is gonna become unwieldy at some point. It's interesting to see how language learning is paralleling Wakotabi's game design. Your vocabulary is often better than your grammar. I can imagine that. I can imagine that for sure. You also didn't get past algebra. What was the last thing you did in math, Beth? The last thing I did was the last skill that I kept anyways. It's probably understanding a polynomial when extrapolating I can't spell, extrapolating or like kind of fitting the relationships of like a data set. That's the thing that I do most of the time. And this is the same as, in its simplest form, it's kind of like you have a scatter plot, right? You've probably seen these in algebra as well and whatnot. Like here's a scatter plot and you're trying to fit it to a curve, and then this curve is represented by a polynomial most of the time, because real, quote unquote, real data or observable data is complex enough that it doesn't fit to like a linear curve. Like You could try to apply a linear line to it and then use that as some sort, but it's dependent on like the standard deviation and the error, right? Or specifically the error, how useful that is. Those are like the only set of calculus related things that I use now. I don't use anything more advanced than that, I suppose. As for using today, sorry, the best you can do is say you have X money to spend at the grocery store, so you can spend Y on Z amount of items. I see. Interesting. How would that be represented? So, let's see. You have Y equals, right? Y equals Z. Nope, it's not Z. It's more like this. No, I think it's more like, yeah, it's probably represented like, yeah, or I guess the way you're phrasing it, you would be X, but I think this would be the way to represent it. This would be like a algebraic way to represent Y being the amount of money you can spend, or like whatever you're spending. Or if you can make this X, which is the total amount of money you have, but so it would then end up the way you said it in your using your English would be like this, probably. Oh no, it wouldn't be. Oh yeah, it would be. So like X is your total that you have. So you brought like $100, for example. $100, and then Y is the cost of item Z. And maybe, oh, and it would be probably Z minus 1. And so on, Z minus 1, Z minus 2. Because it would be the number of items, and each item is designated by Z. And anytime you add 1, it's gonna be the next item, but 1 less than Z. And eventually Z is gonna get to 0, which is your 0. You don't have any more items left, or something like that. That would be probably that. Not, I think it could be written better than this. But that's how I apply algebra to people's situation using syllogism. You don't know if you even think it that far. It's more of the vision in your head. So you're thinking like, if you had X money and you're going to spend Y, but Y, so like Y is out, X is in, right? X is in, oh, or maybe like X minus the sum. So X minus the sum, where Z, right, equals whatever the number of items you have. Z equals items of Y. And it has to be greater or equal to 0. Isn't that interesting? Or maybe you don't even need that. Maybe it's just N. Huh. I guess n equals the number of items. This is what I think of when I think of algebra. So algebra is a way to represent a relationship mathematically. So like, for example, what I did was x represents how much money you have. This is the sum. This is the sum of all the items, the cost of all the items. So every item, this represents the total amount when you add all the items together. So the sum of yn, which is n equals like whatever, however many items you have, which could be 10, and then you add them all up, the cost, add them all up, and you subtract, and it has to be greater than or less than 0, because otherwise you go into debt. Because you said it's just however much money you bring to the store, so you have to either spend less, like this has to be greater than 1, so you have to have at least 0, break even, or have more money left over than you went in. And this would, I'm not sure, I've kind of forgot how this notation works when you have n with n number of items, but it's something like this. It might have been like down here, I equals items or something like that. That's like your I feel like that's algebra. That's algebra, maybe slightly pre-calc, representing things in mathematical relationships. So like, what's the benefit of doing that relationship is you understand easily that the sum of all the things you bought, has to be less than the amount of money you brought in. And so in order to calculate how to maximize the number of items you bought versus the cost of the per item, that's where algebra comes in, like your average costs of items across multiple items, or you're trying to maximize quantity by buying many items with the lowest amount of cost. That's where math can be useful, at least in my opinion. That's where algebra can be useful, where you can represent like, oh, well, how do I know, right? Like, how do I know that my budget is good, which is like whatever X is your budget, and then now you can define an entire expression. You can define an entire expression of all your costs, and then you can make sure it's equal. Now, the reason why this is useful, that's as complicated as it gets. Yeah, I think this is, I feel this is really good, like, because this is how you create budgets. So if you ever want like a machine, for example, if you ever want like a machine to calculate, like, hey, how do I view this? You basically, what you can do now is you can get a machine to say, okay, this is what electricity costs. This is what my phone bill costs. And then this is what my, I don't know, subscriptions, all my subscriptions, right? And you can have a separate algebraic expression so that the machine will collect an electricity bill, because there's going to be multiple electricity bills, right? It's probably on a monthly basis. So then you'll have 12 in a year's budget. And then you can calculate your phone in a separate expression, right? Depending on how you purchase it. And then you can break up the expression for your subs. And then what happens is then you don't actually have to write it all out over and over again. You can simply understand the relationship between them. And then once you learn this relationship, this is the benefit of mathematics. Once you learn the relationship between them, you would, instead of spending the same amount of time performing that task, you can adjust the relationship as you go, so then you would spend a fraction of that time doing the task, despite it getting more and more complicated. This obviously is the precursor to how to manage lots of money. So when you have lots of money, you got to know where your costs, risk, investment, return, and all that. You just write it out. You kind of like to write it out with like little doodles around it just as mental practice. That's fair. As long as it's scalable to your task, obviously, that's what knowledge is for, right? Knowledge and wisdom is for scalability to the task. Otherwise, without a task or an application, it's very difficult. It's humanly difficult to retain specific functionality. Like for myself, my budget is understanding the relationship between my cost, where cost is increasing or decreasing. Like, how would you calculate inflation and how much of a pay raise you would need in order to counter inflation at every subset of the budget? Like, how much is your utilities going up with respect to your cost of living? And in this way, it can help inform, like, are you progressively losing more money because your position is paying not enough to offset the increase in your technology costs, increase in your subscription costs, and then that's one of those things that can get you over time. That's assuming that those things don't impact your life already. Like, if you ask someone for like financial advice, that's, in my opinion, what they are doing. They are trying to tell you where the extrapolation, like the trajectory of your budget going into the future of any particular variable is declining, like increasing faster than your input. So you're constantly comparing input and output, but you're trying to ask an expert, where are you losing progressively the most money? So they tackle the areas that in relation, which is usually an algebraic expression. Not that I'm saying your financial director would do that. They would probably use some sort of program, right? You do use a calculator because you're math. I don't like doing medial like calculations. So typically that's what the calculator is for, right? Like what the thing that I'm saying about understanding relationships using algebra, because algebra is the relationship between numbers. Algebra and calculators are separate things. So calculators do things that very quickly that humans can't, in my opinion. Or you don't typically use calculators for things that you can do, which is like the literal math. It is algebra that helps you understand your investments and your costs, and like, what does it mean to buy a phone subscription? How is picking up a $20 monthly data plan going to financially impact your incoming expenses? It's algebra helps to orient your relationship without the calculator. So like, what I mean by that is, without needing to know all the numbers that your calculator should be used to calculate, in a way. So your skills with a calculator is independent of what algebra is trying to teach you. Algebra is teaching you how you think about how numbers affect each other, like repeatedly, multiplicatively, exponentially. So here's a real world application. why I get this a lot, and people counter argue. We have like lots of debates about this. The cost of a sub versus the cost of ownership. That's a very common, it's super topical now. Like, what is the difference, the cost of buying a yearly subscription on a discount versus a one-time payment, right? And that's the simple type of math that people will do. They would use something like, okay, so I basically just, there's a pseudo here, like there's 1 month times 12 resubs, right? This would be a really classic math problem that most people do, which is like, for example, Bunpro, 1 month subscription times 12, right? Time 12 months. And then they would calculate then the 1 year at that cost. So they would compare the if this is equated or not equated to the 1 year sub. And then they would do this math manually and compare it to the lifetime subscription. And lifetime subscription is based on the projection of total time that they would use Bunpro. And you can hear a lot of times when someone says, is the lifetime worth it? Is the 1 month worth it? Is the 1 year worth it? So the way most people go about doing this math is they do it manually and they calculate based on hypotheticals, which is good enough. It's good enough. The alternative is to understand the relationship of pricing between a month, a year, and a lifetime. And then you look at those numbers and you know already which one's great, which one's cheaper, and which one's more expensive without calculating it. And that's where algebra comes in. The combination of the variables that they're using, because of their relationship, one can't be greater or less than the other. So then you don't have to break out and say, okay, so I'm going to take the month subscription times 12 and then see, okay, the year, take the total subscription cost divided by 12 from the year subscription, and then lifetime, let's assume that I'm doing 2 years, so then they're going to go back and multiply 1 times 24 months and then take the 2 years, add them together, then divide them by the number of months to compare the rate, right? Because you're comparing rates per month. And then equate it to the lifetime projected on the amount of total time. These are the standard operations that I would say on a daily basis. Now in today's world, when you're online, you have to do this calculation. And sometimes it's not even lifetime. It's just a 1 month sub, a 6 month sub, and a yearly sub. And then they would do the manual math and compare them together. And for myself, I don't really do that. I look at the 3 numbers and I determine which one is less and which one's more, because of algebra. Now, it might not seem like algebra when you apply it to real things, because you're simply looking at the relationship between things. Like how much does, you know, a dozen eggs, right? A dozen eggs cost if the total is $3 for a dozen eggs versus like 6 for like $2. Like, which one's cheaper, right? And what you can do is you can simply take the $3 and divide by 12 to get dollars per egg, you can also do that with 2 and 6, right? And then you get dollars per egg. So you can do that. However, when you're walking around and doing something, luckily we have smartphones. So smartphones, you can break out a calculator. In algebra, you can know immediately which one's going to be less, because these are ratios. And ratios, because of these ratios, in fact, like fractions, you can immediately understand the relationship between what if this number, how these numbers change, and how it would affect the ratio. So then you would immediately know which one's cheaper and which one's more expensive per unit. Obviously, this one's cheaper, right? And instead of using a calculator, the decision was, I have to buy eggs. The question is, do I need 12 eggs? Do I want 12 eggs or 6 eggs? And if I already need 12 eggs, then I have to buy the 12 eggs anyways. But what if I bought 6 eggs? This is way more expensive. And you can sit there and do it, step by step on your calculator, or you can understand and for the record, in my opinion, most people do understand algebraic relationships without knowing what algebra is. What they're doing is they're creating ratios, and they're comparing the ratios in order to extrapolate whether they buy 2 6-packs or 1 dozen egg. I'm not sure if you find this stuff. I'm not sure if you find this stuff exciting, but hopefully some of this stuff is interesting. I try to make examples. I try to pick examples that make it like, if you're ever interested ever again, like say for whatever reason you somehow need algebra again. This is what I mean by teaching or encouraging or writing construction of material for people who don't want to learn anymore. Like, what happens outside of school? What happens after school? No, you get it, math's just scary. That's fair. That's kind of my goal. I want to make most things less scary. Like, it sounds like a lot of effort. I can't refute that. The idea is, if you see it as there's an incentive and there's like some sort of time or fun or intrigue, that's the goal of trying to make learning more appropriate after school. So again, not leaving after school or like as a kid, it's more like what happens in life after you stop learning. Most things will look scary, and all the things that were scary become scarier than they ever have. Like, where do you start? These are the stuff that I think about. Like that grocery store example is the other most common thing that I would say whenever people like say, oh, how do I save money on groceries? Or how do I prevent myself from making snap decisions where I'm constantly nickel and diming my budget? Sometimes algebra can come in to save the day, because it's very difficult to compare units. And hear me out, this is how businesses make money. So if there's anything you want to be proud of, I suppose, is being able to understand your mathematical relationships so that you can, stick it, at least save some money. Business practices do this, by the way, in reverse. How do they get you to spend more thinking you are saving more, or spending less but they're still making more money? And yeah, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. no, they don't need a high level of math to do that. The businesses simply have to do math better than you. So if the average populace is uneducated, right? Like what I mean is uneducated in the sense that they don't want to be educated, not uneducated as in they're stupid and they don't know what they want. It's more like they know what they want, they don't care for that. And that's how money is made from those people. So like, why target kids with microtransactions, for example? I know this sounds very brutal. It is business. Business is not necessarily subjective until someone slaps them on the hand or slaps them in the face hard enough. But why target kids with microtransactions? Because microtransactions make the math harder to see, right? If you have a transaction of $1 spread across 100 transactions versus, and it's also a bit of psychology, so it's like and math put together. But like the dawn of the modern age, when you have microtransactions versus getting someone to spend $100 on a Founders Edition, I don't know, Founders Edition game pack, right? This is obscure because this requires one extra math step. In fact, it actually requires 3 extra math steps and a very large psychological step. So the combination of this is what makes these business models very successful compared to this. And this was early on, and then now we have live service. Like nearly every, like most of our entertainment is a live service. It's a subscription based thing. So yes, you can argue like, oh, but it's more about not owning anything. Like, I understand. That's also true. The math side of things is that it also gets people to spend more than they think they're spending because they don't keep track of their math. And if you're wondering, here's the meta, like even meta than this, Beth. To save money from this, here's a meta. You can pay another service. Now you can pay another service to handle this service for you. So like there's a service to prevent losing money from services. And the wheel goes back around. Like legitimately, there's a service to help you manage all your services. They can save money, but you're still paying for the service that is managing all your services. Kind of like doing your taxes. If you don't want to learn how to do your taxes, you pay a service to do it. It's kind of interesting, huh? Most things are services online. Like, we live in a really interesting world. Yeah, literally, I forgot what it's called. There are two viral services now. And when I mean viral, how do I classify viral? They're sponsored, like wide range sponsorships. If you like go on YouTube, occasionally if someone does finances, or maybe even your pretty busy content creator, they'll probably have a sponsor for one of these services to manage your budget. Like your budget in terms of managing your subs, like your type of subs, because you stop processing how many things you sub to. Yeah. Technology is great. So are human services. And I wasn't kidding. When I said that human services are probably going to be the future investment. Because low key, maybe I'll be proven wrong in the future. AI sucks at human services. AI doesn't solve human services. It's AI. So AI is great at solving objective problems, like solve this crystal structure and whatnot, but it's not going to take away human convenience. So now all the medial tasks, all the repetitious tasks and those things, certainly those would be replaced by human services, like solving human laziness, for example, which again is not a negative or positive thing. I pay for the things that I want to be lazy with, right? I go to a grocery store to pick up my grains, my produce, because I don't want to be a farmer, right? All of those human services are interesting. And you might be thinking, okay, a farmer, it's like, well, the farmer is doing labor, right? Yeah, and it's admirable. But machines can also do that, which sucks, because then the farmers have to compete with the machines, right? That deals with some form of objectivity. Solving farming crises, like, for example, solving farmland, AI sucks at. Like the dispute about farmland, data centers, right? Versus data centers, factory farm, that type of thing. This argument is a human problem, and AI sucks at solving human problems. But they can most certainly destroy a farmer because they don't care about that. The objective is like, if the objective is to output the most crops, you phase out the human component. That's what you're going to be asked. Basically, whenever you posit right now anyways, posit a human problem, like, how do I solve depression, for example? I'm depressed. How do I feel more rewarded? Stop being depressed. Here's a bunch of things that statistics have told you would make people happy. Ready, set, go. And then you go back, it's like, what if none of that works? It's like, well, then there's something wrong with you. Objective. That's kind of my, like, it's not that extreme, but it's a talking topic among like people who spend time solving their own problems and juggling these things. Math, like, calculator can't help you solve what you think is a good purchase. Like the act of a calculator, the calculator functions as using the numbers that you provided. It won't tell you or be able to tell you the relationship between your existing budget. Not yet anyways. Like, you know, scourge your entire data set and say, hey, you know, I'm your calculator and I want to tell you, you can probably cut down your spending by 25% and sacrifice zero of the quantity and quality of your products by taking reorganizing the way you purchase here, here, and here. It will require a human being with the understanding of their relationship between all of those things. Now, that still can be possible with AI. Like, it is still possible to probably triangulate on all these things, right? Now, the thing is, to what end? A lot of times budgets are based on the person's perceived quality of life, and that's when it gets hairy, because an AI could say, oh yeah, your house is the source of most of your debt. You can sell the house, repurpose it, refinance a new plot, and then save a lot of money while increasing your food budget. It's like, but the house is very important. And then the AI would say, cannot compute. Because how would you think a house that's a source of most of your debt, why do you want to keep a house when it's the biggest source of your debt? Go sell the house, move into an apartment, negotiate all your current debt, and then that would solve the problem, your existing problem, or it would improve on your existing problem. And then meanwhile, the human would say, well, the whole point was to keep the house. The house is the most important thing. And yeah, I would say, well, how important is it? I can't understand why you think that is more important. Clearly the house is less, it's higher in value, it's depreciating, and that's kind of one of those things that I think about when I think about math. Math is scary, and one of the biggest things is probably home ownership right now. Home ownership, groceries, taxation, and anything on the internet. Anything you're buying on the internet is probably, online commerce is probably one of the biggest sinkholes when it comes to nickel and diming your budget to oblivion. Of course, you can also try to address them one at a time and see where you go, and that is definitely how I feel with most people who are successful with their internet budget. They are frugal, consistently frugal, which is good. And I kind of, you give me the impression, Beth, that you are one of those consistently frugal people. Meanwhile, I had encountered anecdotally my fair share of individuals who have concerning spending habits, and the way they rationalize it does not have a significant understanding of the relationship between numbers, like the numbers situation. It's kind of like trying to tell someone that when you buy something at a 50% discount, you're spending 50% of the price, right? This sounds very simple on paper, but is very difficult to humanly appreciate when they're doing the thing. When you buy something at a 50% discount, you are spending 50% of the market price. That's the relationship, right? And for those who are very frugal and understand this concept, it's like, well, yeah, duh, that's really easy to understand. However, people do not use this relationship. Like, they don't understand percentage relationships. Most of the time, it's like, oh yeah, so this is 30% cheaper than the discounted price of 50% on this item. So do you think that the 30% of 50% is what? If you're taking 30% of the item that's already down by 50%, is that a steal or not? The first question I would ask is, wait, when they say take 30% off of this item that's already 50%, do they mean 80%? Or do they mean 30% of the markdown of 50%? Because that's a small number, a smaller number. And you don't need a calculator to understand that. You simply need to, or one of the things you would need to know is that 30% of 50, you know, like if this item is set to 100% and it's reduced to 50% and you take 30% of 50%, that's less than 80%. This happens quite a lot, like a double stacked discount, and you don't know it's never made, like in my opinion, it's often not made clear whether the additional discount is taken off the principal, like principal or the base, the market price, versus the discounted price. And then how like rewards and promotions are calculated, whether based on the principal, the base price, or a discounted price. Really, really fun little math thoughts can come to mind. All right, that's enough of me digressing about math. Most of this stuff, I would say, like as you said or insist, Beth, I think it won't significantly impact people's lives in their minds. And for myself, it's largely fun exercise in seeing how I can apply my math skills that I've learned in high school and keep them with me. I think that's generally how I go about remembering things. You find wherever it is, fun is greater than math. Fair enough, fair enough. Like finding out if you spent more or less. Yeah. Obviously, Beth, you know what the go-to response is? Just go find a friend that would do it for free. You know, just have a friend who's... That's what I said before when I was... Like, to this day, like, the go-to response would be to be very charismatic, learn how to communicate, and network, and just recruit a bunch of people. It's like, you see, you know how I do my math? I'm just gonna call a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and then we're just gonna get this sorted out. For the record, I do not have a math guy, so that's something. It would be nice, you know, world would be very interesting if people had inner circles that are built like that, where like each circle has like a medical professional, an actuarial professional, a business professional. It would be great to see how the world would operate if all the people are compartmentalized in a manner that is complete. Like a small village. Everyone has a small village of their own. You seem like your own math guy. Not great with certain maths. But I think I get by fairly well when it comes to the average stuff, for sure. I think what can get crazy, I don't do this very often, is using credit to advance loans to create forward investment and then offset it in capital loss and capital gains. I know all of this sounds like, what does it sound like? Investment strategies, but risky investment strategies, like liquidate, like we would have to consider like liquidity and whatnot, that type of thing, like bigger business ventures. That's something that I do not touch. I do it like conceptually. I don't do it actually. We're not about that game where you like take some leverage. You like leverage. Is this about a crypto scam? No, it can be well, it can be about a crypto. It could be about a crypto scam. Leverage can also be your house. You can leverage a mortgage. Right, a mortgage to buy another place. So, any assets, any type of assets. Obviously, crypto is considered a commodity, but you can do any assets like land. Land would be one, being a landlord. Calculating your influx of mortgage with your rent and the costs of like maintenance, right? Maintain, and then your turnover when you flip something, right? If you run a restaurant, which I don't, but my parents used to run a restaurant, so a lot of these things, a lot of these skills end up coming from my being somewhat familiar with how to run a business. So running a business also involves all those enfranchisement, or opening you open one location and then you open 2 locations, and then that's when it's like, I'm not doing this math. This type of math is a little exhausting. You get a manager or like some sort of financial expert to help you with managing multiple places. My parents, there was a time they owned 2 locations, and my family had owned, my father was a landlord at some point as well. The emphasis is on past tense. They no longer do any of those things. Okay, I don't know which one. So it's very difficult to know which one this is. A phrase when someone thinks that they are resolved to. Yeah. So isn't that. I think you will buy. Oh, probably. Yeah. I don't know if it takes the stem though. Maybe like yo to omo.
息子はレゴを欲しがっているから買ってあげようと思う。
Omo. Nothing like a little bit of digression to loosen up the brain cells, right? Alright. Normalization. Sky was through. It's kind of like on the verge of about to do. So I don't think I need it's before a pseudo such. The die was suru tokoro eh?
宿題をするところで友達から電話が入った。
Among other things 日本語でぶのことの音etc. はないです。How many other? It's not Nado. Nado. They're not looking for Nado. They're gonna ping me if I type Nado. Let's try different grammar structure. Yes, because we already hit. So, things like. No, it's not doing a comparison. Maybe we do like so. Among other things, non-exhaustive. Non-exhaustive. And there is what? It's marked as a topic. Oh wait. Yeah. Marked as a topic. It's gotta be one of the soul related or yo related. Oh, no. Let's do like heck, I don't know. Their thing. Oh wait, it can still. That doesn't make it. No. It's some form of seam. Or so, no. I keep going back to no. What's a? Is that a verb? No. Not an adjective. Oh, can it just be toka? Okay.
日本語で th の音とかはないです。
歌うのが好きだからカラオケに行きます。
Dakara, because ski is nah. Or actually, it's at verb, so we not need da, and then kara goes. Low confidence. Suga she so this or she saw this.
この教科書はとても難しそうです。
富士山はとても大きいから近くから近くからでもさ見えよOh no, can't be seen. Oh no, it's just 見える。
富士山はとても大きいから遠くからでもよく見える。
Sorry, I did volitional for whatever reason. 電話は田中さんI don't know がいいかがThat just I thought it just got I was wait. Can you try a grammar point that's more casual? Oh.
電話は田中さんだった。
I had a brain fart. I don't want to talk about. お母さんはを出るrespective particle かな。
お母さんは何をくれるかな。
暑い conditional 暑いば No, wouldn't that just be 暑ばばDarn. Oh, that's interesting. Way to say fan. Oh, that's because that's the electric fan. Senpou key. That's kind of funny. That's actually one of my newest words on What Funny. Oh, Senpou key wo. Senpou key wo. Gete kudasai. If it's the case, so we need a hypothetical that isn't. I thought it was ba. Do I need a? I don't think e adjectives. Not this way. We could use nara. Nara, that's an e adjective. I don't need anything.
暑いなら扇風機をつけてください。
So I'm a little. Alright, I have a little mix up between how ba works and nara. Is okay. No. Alright, how does this relate to ba? Not one of them? Okay. Ba and nara are both conditional forms, but with slightly different nuances. Ba focuses on condition itself. Okay, that doesn't really help here. In contrast, nara has a nuance that the speaker has some reason to believe the condition is likely. Okay. Can I look at ba for like, how does ba work? I have verbs, and then the e adjective would be. Oh, I screwed up anyway. Yeah, I remember having to drop the e ending, so you can't do that because of the way the example is given. And that's not how you go about that. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Like, because of this particular example, it's not possible because of atsui. Like atsuba is what I was thinking of. Oh, but it's not atsuba. It's atsukereba. Atsukereba. Which I guess it will come off as unnatural because you were requesting to turn on the fan expectantly. The heck? Even to the extent. I don't think this uses made. Probably use made. Where's my... Okay. 私まで疑われるから。I'm not sure if I have 疑われるから話しかけないで。So rough. I'm gonna go with you near the speaker, right? You. What? This kind of job? What? What is this nonsense? Oh no. You.
こういう仕事をしなくちゃいけない。
今機嫌が悪くて全然嬉しくならない。
全然。
する。して。
ならなくそう。Oh, I forgot the following. It's a noun. Not a noun. Oh.
つまらなそうな話は聞きたくない。
Ooh, this could be anything. Let's go with demo. Oh no, not demo. Demo. Oh, and that's an item.
「飲み物だけど辛い」。
That's a noun. Hold. Like, are we doing like gatte, gatte, gatte? This does say third person, but it's also a conjunction. Also a conjunction. I wanted to do the garu. Garu. Oh no. Oh no, that doesn't work. I need the. Oh no, wait. Yeah. How do you do tagaru? Check the tense? Oh, wanted. Check the tense. Wait.
彼はパソコンを買いたがって週末も働いた。
I knew that. Another herd, but I passed it. Not the same herd. There's so many herds. This is probably...
トムは旅館に行ったことがないと聞いた。
友達の家へ行きます。
この部屋を、desire? Oh no. Let's try different grammar structure? What? Hold up. A different grammar structure than this. I remember having the same problem the last couple times. Too big, right? Do big. A different grammar structure. Or desire. Is it probably because it's like shiku hoshi or something? Heck. I did have a misspelling, but I don't know if it's hoshi that they're talking about. Bigger. Maybe I use got it? Yeah, like okigaru or oki. I don't really know how garu works. It does work. Garu works within the adjective, and I thought it works like oh no. But there's des. Des makes it weird. It's so weird that I constantly get, okay, a different grammar structure is implying that I'm thinking about it inappropriately. Following it popular. Or possibly not, just maybe it's just making it polite. Yeah, all I have is okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe like shite. How about expanding the base pattern to include the nuance within the translation? Oh, that's right. Because it's I want to.
この部屋を大きくしたいです。
Yeah, shite. I kind of faked myself out there. Excuse me? Is it koto? Probably koto.
フォークじゃなくてお箸を使うこと。
私は嫌いな勉強。勉強は文法。Sorry, the when I was reading the Japanese, it's like, yeah, that's, yep. 文法。It's a double negative, that's why. I'm smart, like, it's a smirk because it's a double negative. It'd be like, anai. That's negative. Oh, yeah.
私の嫌いな勉強は文法じゃない。
じゃない。意味があります。あまりわかりません。
この漢字の意味があまりわかりません。
Emphasis on.
昼にテストがあるので勉強をします。
会社。会社じゃなくて、病院。はい。
あのビルは会社じゃなくて病院みたい。
私はOh no. 病に。
お箸はこのように使います。
Burp. 先週末、私は、がない。Oh, stand? No? Uh, either now or negative pass.
先週末私は暇じゃなかった。
君の車、車を、人はいないと思う。Like, 欲したいの。欲しい。No, you can't do that. You can't do that. Or can you? No, you can't do that. I only can think of like garu. Oh no, wait. Oh, shigaru.
君の車を欲しがる人はいないと思う。
ここで誰が仕事をしますか？
日本語は難しい。日本語は難しいです。
ごめん。The back. What the back? Interesting. 大抵は忘れていた or いかいらたNo. Yes? No. Past tense! I don't know how to past tense. Oh no. That's progressive, right? I'm not. Oh, wait. Am I? Yeah. 忘れていた。
あ、ごめん。
I
腰
have
が
a
痛いって
misspelling
忘れ
somewhere.
ていた。
忘れていた。I misspelled somewhere. No idea. Eh? Gaku just means each. Let's try something repeatedly. Yeah, those. Oh, it's spelled differently. I'm pretty sure it's like it's read differently. The read is different. I think. What was the read on it? Goto.
3時間ごとに水1杯を飲んでください。
What are you? Oh, okay. Oh no, is that irregular? I don't think so. Heck! Oh no! Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, it's conditional. I thought it was ike. It's definitely ike. Unless it's irregular. No, I don't think it is. So ike. Oh, I don't need re. No re.
展覧会に行けばいろいろなことを学べる。
Eh? I thought this is a suru thing again, but this time, oh no, it's got high confidence. No, like nah. So this? Wait, do I need anything for nouns? I don't think. I could use no, right? Oh, high confidence. Just kidding.
このコーラは苦い。まるでコーヒーのようだ。
High confidence, not low confidence. 明日のパーティーのためにジュースあーOh, in advance. In advance. In advance. In advance requires Oku. It requires Goku, so 書いておきました。
明日のパーティーのためにジュースを買っておきました。
買っておきです。食べに行く欲しい。欲しい。What the wait. Could you try checking your conjugate? It's probably has something to do with do I not need to conjugate? I really thought you take the moss form. Maybe it's no, it can't be that. Definitely can't be that. It's probably like head form.
一緒に食べに行ってほしいんです。
など。Oh, does that include? Not no. What? Oops. Say what? What is that? Oh, wait.
私はいい服などが欲しいです。
Well, that was a bit of a roughness, but oh hey, what is this? Yay, we reached nice. 10x. New badge. Woohoo, new score badge. Alright. Alright, that's a wrap for Bunpro today. If you want to watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu. As always, feel free to follow along. If, pick up Bunpro, try it out for yourself. You're always welcome to come on by and yap, exchange ideas, throw in a little bit of chit chat today. Talked about maths. I mean, hot take here. I don't particularly think math is any different from learning Japanese, but take that with a grain of salt. Largely because I typically focus on the learning aspect and not necessarily the content itself. Obviously, the content of math is different from the content of Japanese. And building your strategies and whatnot on the nature of the content is part of the picture. My interest in math and language is not predicated on its content, but on the foundations of learning. So, while I can recognize that learning math and language learning might be disparate, you can make a distinction based on like the content itself, right? Sometimes people just don't like math as much as they like another language. That's understandable, and it does way more for other people's perspective. For myself, the commonalities of learning that forms the foundation of learning kind of makes a lot of the content independent of it. Now, yes, I still tweak, math and Bunpro. There are some inherent preferences about the nature of math, like the abstraction related in math and the language. However, for myself, this is how I go about it. Abstraction is abstraction without application. All right, like a content is abstract when there is a lack of association with its application. It becomes less abstraction when one can imagine a scenario of application. So that was kind of why I digressed a bit to talk about algebraic expressions and how they may seem foreign because they're representations. However, when applied to an application, the retention is far more natural. Whether that is useful or not, like the actual content is useful or not, that is where me and Beth kind of diverge, right? However, the skills necessary to create those relationships and developing an application for something that is initially abstract, that is where I do not believe there is a fundamental difference between math, science, physics, Japanese. The aspect that I think people build around is their application, and that still exists in every single topic. Japanese, for example, it's a target language that someone can foresee their application using. So then it becomes less of abstraction, but more by finding application for the abstraction. That still underlies how one acquires a skill, learn about the skill, and also practice the skill for retention. That's how I kept those math skills in line or in my pocket. And of course, most of the other math skills would require a review, and they still remain abstract because they are not connected in a long line of series of associated memories that connect back to its original application. Although applying a couple calculus concepts, I think that is pretty much above average at this moment, which is kind of where I like to sit. Other than that, it'll be interesting to integrate. We keep shooting around the idea of like evaluating other people's learning content and material. That is certainly something I can consider in the future. I do want to do something from that perspective. A perspective that is not typically about the criticisms of people's content, like the quality of the content. More so, how do you determine how do you develop naturally the foundational skills to decide if information that you're looking at is relevant and appropriate for you, or you can leverage that information. I think that is a course that will greatly allow one to utilize all the wonderful information that many present. I think utilizing the information is a skill no longer taught. It is a skill trained by trial and error. However, it is contrastively diminished and mitigated by the way internet promotes information now. There's no shortage of a knowledge check on the internet. There is a huge, in my opinion, shortage of a wisdom check. You know, I'm speaking more like in D&D terms, but perception check and like usefulness, creativity, like the intel, like that type of thing. Wisdom check is the diminished return. Intelligence, the classical old school millennial carried over intelligence check. Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge on the internet. How you're able to use it in order to retain it and profit or benefit from it. That is something we're going to talk about for the next like 10 years. Maybe all of my 40s will be contributed to that. Because I think I found exploring language learning or exploring another skill again in this modern age of technology, I suppose. Yeah, there is a vast shortage in wisdom. And I don't mean like, well, I'm 18, how could I develop wisdom? I'm talking about information and structure that creates the opportunity for those to see or be encouraged to consider the idea of the value of developing wisdom from the wide range or vast knowledge. You can pick something trivial. It doesn't always have to be life-threatening or life-changing in order to develop wisdom. Wisdom implies the J word, judgment, right? Judgment, predictions, intuition, propagated on wisdom, not knowledge. Knowledge forms the basis for the input to challenge and curate the wisdom. And that is where conversation, here's a great incentive. If you're nervous about explaining something or explaining why you don't understand something, why you grind, why something's not working, how this is not working, and all those things right on the spot, it's wisdom, not knowledge. Doesn't substitute. You can have an encyclopedic knowledge and it will still fail to connect or improvise when it doesn't follow the ideal structure of your existing information. I did a little jab at AI too. AI is very powerful at being objective with knowledge. There's an excess of knowledge. It rarely, at the moment, can answer things of wisdom. Like, why do humans still continue to collectively spend thousands of dollars repurposing expensive cardboard, for example. Food for thought, right? So you are more than welcome to come on and by and yap about these things. They are related to language learning, I assure you. If you want to do some yap about that, I'll bring it back to language learning or skill development in general. Until next time, 皆さんまたね。見てくれてありがとう. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. I'm gonna get up, stretch, take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be back for Hanza Hero. Thank you.